All It's 6:30, so we will call the meeting to order of the City of Orinoco Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for 6:30 PM for Monday, August 18th. And with that, excuse me, I will apologize up front. My allergies are going crazy this week and I'm on medication, but you'll bear with me. We'll keep my voice going here as long as we can. I think there's some more people in the hall. We'll get them in here as well.
Thank you for it. Maybe that's it for now.
Is that everybody?
I'm gonna log on Zoom. Cheers.
Oh, come on in.
And I'll be there. So.
Let's pull it up here. Do apologize. It's up here. But we do have on our agenda for this evening potentially a long agenda. With that, we've got, I believe, roll call first here coming up. We have Commissioner Kathy Rucker, I am here. Don Evans.
Here.
Grant Koser.
Here.
Jim Phillips.
Here.
Scott Sorensen. Daniel Spring.
Here.
All right, so we do have quorum for this evening. External staff, Stantec, and I understand Phil Carlson we have a replacement for Phil. He's on. Okay.
Yes, good evening, Chair. Evan Munson filling in.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Evan.
Hello.
Joe Palin. Jason Baker. I saw he popped in here and popped out again. And then we also have Lori Johnson from WSB. With that, approval of the agenda, are there any changes or additions to the agenda for this evening?
Yeah, I'd like to make one addition, which is for Jeff Green. And we could probably put that under new business for him to get up and talk a little bit about what's going on with his project that he has. And the only other thing, well, we'll just go with that.
Jeff Green under new business. Any other changes or additions? And with that, we do have one change. So all in favor of the agenda as amended? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Okay, so the agenda has been amended. We don't currently have any minutes from prior meetings. I know, Dan, you have been working on getting some minutes there for us.
Yes, I will run them through the otter when they've got the chance. And hopefully create those.
I know we've been hoping and waiting and working with that, waiting, I know.
I don't have direct access to these files, so
Okay.
it's gonna be a staff thing.
Okay. Very good. I know council had previously approved time for city staff to do all the minutes, so we're just waiting for that. And with that, I do have to wait till 6:35 to start the public hearing. That's the hearing that's been posted. There are two other public hearings that were posted for Gold Rush Crossings. They have been delayed until September 11th, next month's meeting. Seconds away, folks. So still 6:34. In the meantime, with everybody here, we do have an open spot on planning and zoning if anybody is interested. I'm hoping everybody in here is somewhat interested in zoning this evening. And if you are, please feel free to hang out. And towards the end of our meeting on our agenda, we actually do have open position interviewing any candidates who are present. So if anybody is interested, you do have that available as well. 6:35, and with that, I will call the public hearing at 6:35. for updating existing and introduction of new zoning ordinance and zoning map for the city of Orinoco. Before I go into that, I just want to think, we did have a lot of public citizens that were actually on the Planning and Zoning Commission about a year and a half ago. We started this process, year and a half, maybe even 2 years ago. To start the RFP, got approval from council to get an outside consultant to help us bring our city code and ordinance into this century. It was a lot of it written last century, before iPhones, before food trucks. It was written when we had, every house in town had its own septic, every house in town had its own well. So with that, I do thank all of those folks for their time in reading 600 to 800 pages of zoning over the course in several different meetings that were held at City Hall here. I will open for public comment. If anybody has public comment, there are forms up there that you can sign. I would ask that you would fill out a form and bring it in. We will, if you could say your name and your address, and we will just go in order and see what we have for folks that do want to hear. I do have some public comments that were also submitted in writing, and I will have our staff, Lori, go through those for us. My voice is probably not going to hold out long enough to read through all those out loud for everybody as well. But with that, is there anyone who would like to speak for or against the zoning changes? Yes, please.
Good evening, Paul Janetto, 1090 Cedar Drive, Southeast Orinoco. I want to start out by thanking the committee for all the hard work that's gone into updating the city zoning ordinance. As a previous chair and committee member of planning and zoning, I understand that these were outdated and did need updating, and the incredible undertaking that it was. However, I do want you to consider adding a component that I found that was missing to the new city code, specifically the requirement for step-down lot size zoning. City zoning ordinances often employ a step-down approach to lot sizes, particularly when transitioning either between or within different residential densities and or between residential and other zoning districts, such as business or industrial. The purpose and function of a step-down ordinance is to create a transition zone or overlay. For example, if you have a higher density residential zone like R2, adjacent to a lower density residential zone R1, cities establish a transitional area or apply a specific overlay zone to the lots along the border between those two. Similar transition zones could also be implemented where a residential area meets a commercial or industrial districts to mitigate potential negative impacts. In this transition zone, the minimum lot size requirements would be adjusted upwards compared to the higher density district, effectively creating larger lots at the interface. For example, you could require a 50% maximum lot size step reduction between or within a residential density or zone. So for example, if you had quarter acre lots being built next to all 1 acre lots, you would have at the transition zone, half acre lot buffer zone between those two. This type of code is actually used by many different cities. For example, Cook County zoning ordinance details specific lot area and dimensional requirements for various residential districts, reflecting a gradual increase in density and smaller lot sizes as you move from lower to higher density areas. The main rationale behind this step-down approach is threefold. First, to ensure new development is compatible with the existing neighborhood character. Second, to create a buffering zone between different land uses and minimize potential conflicts. And lastly, and most importantly, it actually ensures that the infrastructure, roads, sewers, water, can adequately support the proposed density. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Do you want this?
Sure.
Yeah, record.
I would have you give it to Dan, who is our unofficial.
Sure.
Thank you. Thanks, Paul. Is there anyone else present who would like to speak for or against the, yes? Okay. Thank you. You just want to say your name and address for? Thanks, Paul.
Paul Pendergrass, 105 Minnesota Avenue North, Orinoco. When we first started rewriting this a couple of years ago, I was kind of on the committee that was kind of involved in doing some of the rewrite of it. But the original intent and purpose of this was to remove any redundancies or contradictions in the code. And in doing so, you'll see that, there was a lot of stuff that there's a lot of concern about property values and such. And a lot of the property values, by rewriting the code, I don't know, they've added so many new codes to it that I have a question whether or not you're actually helping the tax base or hurting it, actual property values. And, the lot sizes were a big thing in it. And it seemed like every time we turn around, we kind of asked Stantec for an opinion on whether or not a improvements will fit the lot size and what kind of, and do we need to do and what all we need to do to make things fit, I really question, because a lot of seems like you're turning the whole town into an HOA, the homeowners associations, the new developments pretty much have them. And we had the zoning codes for quite a few years, but it seems like some of the stuff that's being added to it is something that's more related to an HOA. And I guess I really question if we're really helping or hurting lot values or property values, but I'm sure the assessor will appreciate the increase. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. I will ask again if there's any, thank you.
Brian Button, 940 Woodland Lane. Yes, as Paul alluded to, appreciate all the effort that you guys are putting into it. I will say though, one of my biggest disappointments with this though has been the communication. About a year ago, I wrote my name down as this for other meeting purposes. I never was communicated to, never reached out with my email address. I gave it twice, to be honest. We had a clipboard went through, never reached out. Now, you're going to say there was other opportunities to come to, but I want to put it out there that it does begin to question the transparency of this. Yes, there's other events, but I put my name down to be contacted and no one reached out. So I want to put that out there. So transparency, communications, there are other events, but I don't know, when the planning and zoning asked me to participate and I give you my information and not get reached out, and I know I'm not the only one. So I want to put that as a disappointment with how this process is, because coming to this, having about 3 weeks or so to come up with, do I like what I see or not? A little bit tougher to grasp that when I'm starting to go through it. But a couple of things that I want to highlight. Stepping down from 20,000 to 10,000 square feet. I'm not necessarily certain that that's necessary for Orinoco. Do we need to be like other communities? One of the things people like here is bigger lot sizes. I think our developers can succeed with 20,000 square foot lots, not necessarily going down to 10. But I hope there's good dialogue about that during this public hearing. I also want to put out that I think there were some changes to the future use plan. I look forward to hearing and understanding why that would occur. What Paul alluded to, no step down. I think that needs to be added into this. I hope people understand the flux opportunity as well. There seems to be a huge variety in that section. I think it's about page 70. I hope people understand and understand what that could mean for developments. Because I'll put it this way. I try to keep up on things. I'm guessing the general public doesn't understand what that could do. And I'd love to make sure that's discussed here. So the flux component of it. And does this proposal set us apart from other communities or make us like other communities? I think we want to be different than other communities. Do we want to be a Byron? Do we want to be a Stewartville? Do we want to be a Casson? I think we don't need to follow others. We can stay where we're at with a lot of these things. And then finally, to be fair, I think there's a small showing of individuals that are here. I don't think most people understand it doesn't just impact those that have new land opportunities. It impacts everybody in the city, everybody, because now how many things have you voted on here, turned down, that could become somebody puts that proposal back to put a garage in, now those setbacks are changed. How many things would be overturned because of the new ordinances? So prepare for those opportunities. I don't think everybody understands. It's not just about the new land, the new opportunities are being built. It's existing as well. I mean, I'm glad for the people that are here. I don't think the whole town knows about it. I was talking to somebody this afternoon, wasn't even aware this discussion was happening this evening. So, thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Brian.
Is there anyone who'd like to speak for or against the new zoning ordinance, zoning map change? I'll just say it one more time before I close the public hearing. Is there anyone present who would like to speak for or against the new zoning ordinances change? Hearing no more, I will close the public hearing at this time. So it's 6:46. And with that, Lori, if I could ask you to go through some of the other comments we've also received as well.
Yes, Chair, thank you. I will be happy to read those for you. I'll go through the letters first, but then I will go through the comments we received from the website. So this first one is from Travis, Kristen, Kaylin, and Evan Drucker, and they're at 960 Woodlands Lane Southeast. I'm not going to read this word for word. I'm going to hit the high points, and there's copies of these over here if you would like to see what they have to say, but they're writing to express their concern at the large reduction in lot size being proposed. 50% reduction in lot size is considerable change. It'll greatly change the character of our community. While the sewer project is often noted as giving the community the ability to have smaller lot sizes, it does not mandate that it should be so. It would be a good idea to include sidewalk requirements in the R1 and R2 developments. This community is described as having small town charm that would be preserved as we developed. And the website claims we are committed to preserving the character of our city while investing in infrastructure. And again, the lot size will greatly change the character of our city, making it more like a suburban extension of Rochester. They're strongly opposed to this lot size reduction and hope that the Planning and Zoning Committee and City Council will take this into consideration. That's the gist of theirs. The next one is from Mark Johnson at 240 Shady Ridge Lane Southwest. He is also expressing his concerns regarding the significant changes with the proposal to R1 zoning. Concerns center around safety, population density, and established community values based upon the future land use map. The last concern is the communication of this proposed change. Very little information has been sent out to residents. He signed up to be part of the group of residents to express a community voice, but didn't hear back. This should have been clearly communicated to the community at large versus hidden in the recesses of City Hall. It seems like the city officials have an agenda that they will decide upon themselves versus the residents of Orinoco. This next one is from Morgan Koser at 1240 Cedar Drive Southeast. Writing to express my deep concern regarding the proposed lot size change from 20,000 to 10,000. He breaks his letter into blocks, the first one being traffic and pedestrian safety. Creates a major safety concerns due to the increase in traffic that will accompany the change in zoning parameters. He talks about the neighborhoods and kids and dogs and buses, people walking their dogs, etc. It could cause massive congestion with the current infrastructure that is in place. They've already noticed an increase in traffic. Adding multifamily units will exacerbate the problems, especially near intersections. He says not to mention the new development about moving forward next. Glenn's Motor Coach. It seems this change in lot sizes will disproportionately impact our neighborhood. And then he talks about environmental and wildlife impact. His neighborhood is home to diverse wildlife and green spaces that contribute to the environmental quality in Orinoco. This could lead to the displacement of wildlife that makes our neighborhood beautiful. The lot size change would double the amount of properties in our neighborhood compared to the current zoning. Feels all too familiar and all the same issues we have from the land development discussions from 2024 with the Hamiltons. And then safety, I value the safety, stability, and close-knit nature that our single-family zoning has helped foster. I understand the need for housing diversity and growth. I'm concerned about the potential impact this change may have on neighborhood safety. Current R1 zoning has contributed to a peaceful environment where families feel secure. Having the lot sizes could introduce a level of unpredictability that may compromise the atmosphere. Respectfully urge the planning commission to consider these concerns seriously, to conduct a thorough impact assessment, including crime statistics and community feedback before making any decisions. Our neighborhood safety and character are worth preserving. He has some recommendations here: conduct a comprehensive traffic impact study, hold additional neighborhood meetings, evaluate alternative development strategies that preserve single-family zoning, include environmental assessments in the rezoning review to protect wildlife and increase green spaces. The next one is from Beth, Ingrid, Denisa, Kyra, and Sarah Skeski at 855 Cedar Point Lane. Thank you for the time and effort that you put into this. Our family has concerns about the minimum lot size reduction by 50%. They make several points here that they've numbered. The first one, we strongly feel that changes to planning and land use regulations should consider the established community values in the approved City of Orinoco Comprehensive Future Land Use Plan. Does the density seem consistent with these goals? They would argue that this plan goes in direct contradiction to these agreed upon values. They have safety concerns, mostly due to the traffic. How does this impact school districting, crime rates? The third is we have environmental concerns. How will reducing lot sizes impact the environment? We believe plan changes place huge stress on community resources. We are aware that first responders are currently limited to the place where they are no longer able to serve Orinoco Township. It's unclear how the community has been engaged in this planning process. Our family has specifically signed up at a prior planning and zoning meeting. They have received no information. It's clear from the prior planning and zoning meetings regarding development and rezoning of the land north of Cedar Point Road that the community wants to help guide thoughtful planned growth. The planned change raises many of the same concerns voiced by dozens of neighbors at these meetings. 6 is communication regarding the plan change has been suboptimal. Talk about the dates for public comments were discrepant when posted online and on Facebook, despite a website designed to increase transparency. The only way to see the proposed new zoning map seems to be in person at City Hall, which limits open access. Finally, at number 7, we find the desire to increase R1 housing density rather than focus on safe infrastructure to be misguided. For those seeking housing options with small land plots and higher density, there is undeveloped R2 zoning that meets this need. Urge you to guide Orinoco's growth in a thoughtful fashion. Please do not make sweeping changes to R1 zoning. And then this last one is from Joy Bertsinger. She's an Orinoco resident. He was a member of our steering committee, and she had some comments and questions, and she had some specific instances in her email, particularly about minimum finished floor area for the R1 and R2 zoning. She questioned the numbers there and questioned what had happened at our steering committee meetings for those. Essentially, the R1 zoning district has minimum finished floor area without a basement of 1,000 square feet and with a basement of 900. The R2 zoning is proposed to have, without a basement, 1,240 square feet, and with a basement, 1,040 square feet. She wondered why they were different. And I responded that the larger single-family homes could be constructed in the R2 zoning district because of the larger lot size. The minimum lot size of R1 is 10,000 and the R2 is 14,000. And she wondered why the R2 was larger, and that is to accommodate the larger buildings where duplexes could be constructed. She had some concerns about the performance standards section where we talk about landscaping. She wondered why R2 had 2 front yard trees as a requirement, and that's mostly because of the larger lot size and the potential for 2 units on those properties. Also in the landscaping section, she had questions about whether that 151.118 applied to single family zoning. And it does not, it applies to the commercial and industrial areas. And she asked if private homeowners would be required to submit a landscape plan to the zoning administrator, and the answer is no. And then finally, on tree preservation, she asked for the definition of a significant tree, and the definition is any live healthy tree measuring 8 inches in diameter or greater, measured at 4.5 feet above the ground. And then she asked if a private homeowner would be able to submit a forest management plan, and that the answer to that is yes. She said perhaps the steering committee should take time to review before the documents are. So those are all of the separate comments that were submitted, not on the website. And so I'll go through these quickly. There's a general comment on section 151.035 through 39, which is the R1 zoning. He or she agreed with the new zoning. He or she likes the change to R1 for the area east of 2nd Avenue and south of Timberline Drive, the Hamilton land. This makes sense because we will have the new townhomes south of Cedar Point Road in the R2 zoned area that will meet the future needs of multifamily homes. The next one is also on 151.040 through 044. 10,000 square foot minimum lot size allows for 4.4 dwelling units per acre and will create medium density neighborhoods, not low density. Low density is widely accepted to be 4 dwelling units per acre and below. This will effectively change the current zoning from low density to medium density, leaving Orinoco without any low density zoning. The next one agreed with a minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet for low density. This is normal for R1 zoning in suburban areas and rural towns. Our last home in Apple Valley was 11,200 square feet. I think that's a lot size, not a home size. The smaller lot size would not allow adequate space for families to enjoy their yards. If future residents do not wish for care for yards, they will have the option to live in the townhomes in the R2 zoned areas. The low density or the R1 10,000 square foot lot size, I would like to see this increase to 12,000 square feet to under 4 dwelling units per acre. Increasing would also prevent significant number of possible lot splits without review, because the prior minimum was 20,000. A new minimum of 10,000 would allow for almost any prior lot to split without review or approval from PZ. The next one is about the garages or accessory buildings. And I think the single family zoning, this seems a bit restrictive. Boats, pop-up campers, snowmobile trailers, classic vehicles would all be examples of why this could be unreasonable. Maneuverability of any of the above or larger equipment needed for yard care, log splitter, mid-size lawn tractors. The next one is front yard, rear yards, and side yards, and I believe that they're not talking about setbacks, but they're talking about the need for sod. I've seen a requirement to sod front yards, but not in the yard in its entirety. This seems like something that should be included in an HOA and not a city code. Sod versus seed seems like an HOA concern not needed in code. And then it goes on to say a minimum size of 8.5 feet by 17 feet for 90-degree parking spaces. So this is in reference to the performance standards section. Works just fine elsewhere and would save money and land. And then the last one is this whole section, which is required parking spaces. So this is in the performance standards section, and it's about how many spaces each use should have within the city. It says the whole section should be removed. Parking minimums are an outdated and costly policy. Orinoco should follow the Twin Cities and La Crosse and let the market determine the parking provision. And so all of these comments then were also screenshotted and added to the end of this. And that concludes the comments that I've received from the city and through our website.
Thank you. With that, I know, excuse me. So with that, do we have any discussion up front here? I know there's a number of different comments. I think one of the overwhelming comments seems to be on the R1 lot size going from 20 to 10. I know there was some discussion on that. I'll come back to that. Also on communication, and I will say I dropped the ball on that one, so I do apologize for that. I know we did have meetings, we did post them out there on the website, but it was trying to work around people's schedules, and where that email list went, I do not know, so I do apologize about that. I do know also that what we decide here is not the final word, so that will be going, and I believe city council is going to meet on this, not this month, but next month, so there's a whole nother month to look at this as well. Just make sure everybody is aware of that. But to circle back, one of the first overwhelming comments would be lot sizes in R1. I do know it's something I had written down as well myself to look at, because one of the things I had thought about in all of this, because it's hundreds of pages to look at, but how would this effectively work? And I think somebody actually did put in here too, is that you could have any of our 20,000 lots, somebody come in and just split it without the neighbors knowing, provided there's setbacks and everything else if there's open space. So that is certainly something I had down on my list. I know we did have somebody actually out here. It was comment number 12, so that on the community input from the website that talked about seeing that increase to 12,000. But I don't know if anybody has discussion on lot size that they want to bring forward.
So one question I have, because again, and haven't been part of P and Z as long as some of the others. I guess my question is on that decision to go from 20 to 10. Is it strictly based on, or was that decision made strictly based on the new septic and the capabilities rather than what others may have moved to Orinoco for? That's one of the comments that has been made. I tend to agree with that myself. I will say that, but I'm just curious what drove that decision from the 20 to 10.
I think overall it was probably a discussion that it was their sewer, their septic, the large lot sizes historically were there because of water and sewer, not because developers were choosing to make larger lot sizes. Now, they effectively did because that's what you needed in order to fit all of that on there. But it certainly is something that we could entertain if people do have some discussion and want to talk about a change to that.
I think what we were looking at, when we were going through this with our committee, was other communities that there were that we were looking at and comparing that. And so that's kind of how it arrived at the 10,000. I mean, it could be, like you said, it could be changed. It's open for discussion, whatever we want to do. That's
Somewhat larger than other communities out there that we compared with that were similar size to us that had water and sewer. But I think certainly it's overwhelming in the comments that lot size is out there as an issue. Now it's happenstance that we inherited and walked into that because of the way the city is one of the last ones in the state to get water and sewer. But it certainly does add to the character of the town.
And I think that the comment that was made too, without going through P and Z, and I think it's important for changes for other people. If you do a lot split automatically where it's 10,000, it bypasses P and Z. And I think it's something that we should be concerned with what we're looking at for the city and direction for the city. So I could see that increase. But that's where it came from, just so you know what it is.
And yeah, I was assuming so, but I wanted to ask the question just to get honest, but
That comment is actually my comment from going on there, so. I think that's a big concern of mine, is just people being able to split their lots. I do like the idea of having the step down. Zone, so was on the steering committee briefly. I think we got through 2 sections, then I was elected at council, and then it would have been an open meeting, so I had to step down because there were already council members on there. I didn't hear a whole lot after those meetings, but the 12,000 square feet, that brings it under the 4. But I do like the idea of a step down zone, reduction zone. I think that could help fulfill 2 different needs, is keeping the aesthetic of the community in the existing houses and give them the buffer, while also providing the homes to help pay for these upgrades that the city has done with the sewer. So we do need more numbers of houses to pay and help water and sewer along. But I think that there was some good points earlier about it being over 4 dwellings, so.
Can I add something about the density?
Sure.
Your comp plan does not specify 4 dwelling units per acre in the R1. And I think the comment was that it's generally accepted. I wanted to make sure I looked at the land use plan again, because your comp plan doesn't say that R1 has to be under 4. In fact, your comp plan is consistent with your current zoning, and that residential 1 is what they call it in your comp plan from 2006, is to have lot sizes of 3/4 of an acre to 2 acres, and that's more than, so that would be a minimum lot size of 30-some thousand square feet, which is more than what you even have right now. And then residential 2 has low densities 1 to 4.5 dwellings per acre for the R2. I just wanted to let you know.
Thank you. So size, we had a little discussion, step down, anything more on step down? I've heard that mentioned as well.
I think the step down is a positive thing that was put in there when Paul was on, looking at going even between R1 or R2 and a B, okay, was looking at the step down approach as you worked its way through. And I think that makes sense to maybe take a look at that with a step down. I think also maybe taking a look again at that lot size to maybe have it be something closer to like the 12 or something along those lines, you know, to change that a little bit.
There was a comment related to the flex development. And now with the flex development, my understanding is that is not on people's existing lots. The flex development would be if we have new developers that come in, one of the things by going flex development, correct me if I'm wrong, when they come through with the development, say, this is what we want to do, and the city approves it, goes through council, it gets approved. If they want to change it once it's approved, it has to come back again. And that's one of the things that we don't have today, is if they change some of the stuff after the fact, there is not a mechanism in place to
Right.
pull that back to council, pull that back.
Would you like me to explain
Yeah.
that concept for everybody? Because it's probably new. So the development flex zoning district takes the place of a traditional planned unit development. ordinance. It functions the same way. It's just a different process for approval. But this would apply to anybody coming in and wanting to develop on land that provides a development proposal that doesn't meet any existing zoning requirements for that property. So then the city starts that negotiating process like you would do with a PUD. And the city planning commission and the city council will have to say, what are we getting out? If we're giving you smaller lot sizes, what are we getting out of this? And that's when they add in, maybe, and this is just an example, maybe they add in better architecture, maybe they add in a bigger buffer strip, maybe they add in wider streets or things like that. And then as we work through the planning commission for a public hearing on that, and then the city council for their portion of the approval process, then we wind up with a document that functions exactly like one of these zoning chapters. So it will contain all of the rules of development for that particular property or development. So it will have its own minimum lot size. It will have its own landscaping requirements, its own setback requirements. It's really meant to function just as a PUD. It just takes away some ordinances will have, okay, you need a concept like review, then you need master plan approval, then you need to do final approval. And it takes the burden off city staff, but it also makes it easier for the commission and council to understand how the process works. So this will apply only to new development. It's not going to apply to any existing development.
And the decision of one developer apply to the next developer too, or it's just individual?
Nope, just the property that's included in that. Say it's 36 acres. It's only for that 36 acres. It doesn't apply anywhere else. It'll have its own zoning. Yeah,
The zone will be called the flex zone then, right?
it'll be zone DF, development flex.
And so the person developing it doesn't need no variances to do anything as long as they follow that.
Yes.
Yes, and if they want to change from what's been approved, they can't just work it through. They actually have to come back to planning and zoning or city council
Yes.
Right.
and be back out there in the public again.
For instance, if somebody in that development, in one of those DF developments wants to build a little bit closer to the front lot line than what that development prescribes, then it's not a variance process. It's called a conditional use permit amendment. And so then the city council has the ability to decide on that as well.
It also
Without
has
particular-
architectural too in it as well, so you're gonna
Yep.
know exactly what the units look like or the housing that's in there to be approved, right?
Yes, yes.
Well, this is for B1, B2, not R1, not R2.
It can be used in commercial and residential zoning and industrial if necessary.
So an R1 could switch to flex,
Well, if it's a vacant R1,
right?
yes.
I just want to make sure
Yep,
it's not starting at the business side. It could go all the way down to our R1.
right.
It could come through this group and it could turn, an R1 could put up to a flex.
Usually gonna be your developers using that, whether they're developing residential or whether they're developing commercial. Or if, I don't know if there'd ever be an industrial that would try it, but
And the city
can't
council
see
really holds the cards with this particular proposal because the rezoning, the city council has the ability to say no to a rezoning. Whereas if it's, somebody just coming in for a variance or a conditional use permit without that rezoning, their ability to say no goes down because of the number of votes needed and just the way the charter is set out for the city council. Yeah. Mhm.
Since you said follow partially on a conditional use permit, would then that be specific to that developer? So if a developer sold it to another developer, they would have to get reapproval, correct? Because.
No, it would, this conditions would still say the same.
So anybody coming to that property would have the flex, could do whatever.
Yep.
or would be locked into what has already been agreed to. They can't change.
Yeah.
I was thinking, yeah, Janet.
That'll be the zoning ordinance for that property. So if somebody else wants to come in and build on that, they have to follow whatever was approved. They can't deviate from that at all. Without going through a process.
do we get to have a meeting like this where we can say our opinions on certain things then as well?
Yeah, for those,
For the
that
zoning
flex
requirement.
development,
Yep.
that's the whole point of having that, is that I think in the past, there has not been enough of that. And something gets approved and then the end result gets changed. And that's what this is intended to do, is to basically stop that. So it'll get approved. And if they want to change from that, they're gonna have to come back in front of folks.
Public hearings are required for that.
Just making sure, but if you own a home and wanna change it, now you're going against the design of the neighborhood and, right? So are you then breaking the building codes?
Well, I mean, in the examples that I've seen when I've used this,
Architecture, commercial, but.
yeah, I mean, the time that it's been an issue for me in my previous experiences, maybe when for shed sizes. Like, we'll ask the developer when this comes through, how big do you want your garages and how big do you think the sheds are gonna be? And then we'll present that to the city council. If that's acceptable, then we'll write that into the ordinance. So sometimes people might come, well, I want a bigger garage. Well, then you have to go, then we have to change it for the whole neighborhood, not just this one property. And so that's when the city council gets to decide if that's appropriate. If it's not, then they don't get to build that bigger garage. Is that a fair example to help you understand that?
Thank you. Somebody had mentioned sidewalks. And I think that's a fair question. I like to walk. Today, very few sidewalks exist in Orinoco. There are some paths and walking trails. I believe the new development that's going out by the transportation and out by Two Sisters is gonna have paths going around it that are gonna be open and available to the public. So I know on a site by site, but that might be something. Would sidewalks be covered if we had a developer coming in and wanting, so we could require sidewalks?
Yes. Particularly with the development flex zoning. That would be one of the negotiating tools that you have. Is that we're not gonna support this if you don't give us a sidewalk. I mean, the city council is gonna have to decide and you're gonna have to decide what's appropriate. But that's the job of the planner, to bring that information to you. And anybody that wants to do a development flex zoning has to come in with a concept plan. So they don't just automatically get to apply. They have to come in with a concept plan for the city council to review. And they can, generally, the city council can review that at a workshop or at a regular meeting, and they can't make any decisions. They can provide feedback about the proposal, but it just provides another avenue for that information to get out to the planning commission and city council before any applications are made. Thanks.
Is there a reason why we can't require sidewalks in new R1, R2 development besides the flex? Why would it have to be tied to a flex if we want sidewalks? I mean, there's been multiple occasions where we want to have a walkable city, but there's no sidewalks. You're walking down the street.
You certainly could.
Who would pay for that sidewalk?
Well, it would be if it's a new development. This wouldn't pertain to any existing R1.
Existing.
If the city wanted to come through and force everybody to put in sidewalks, I think that'd be a whole different discussion. That would not necessarily be.
That doesn't have anything to do with zoning, actually.
But if you're gonna build a certain density, then you're required to have a sidewalk type thing. But on the builder to build it, the city to maintain it.
Depending on the type of development. Maybe that's part of the DF that they want to say, well, we don't want to maintain, the city doesn't want to maintain these, so you have to have your HOA do it. Depending on what type of development it is. Yeah.
So with this flex deal, if I'm understanding correctly, this is a negotiating process, so the city kind of gets what they want, more, the developer get what they want. My question is there's negotiating back and forth, so you're to get that sidewalk or to get that piece you want, you're gonna have to give up smaller lot sizes, build more houses, so where does the city's standards go from there? Because At that point, you're getting rid of all your standards
Mhm.
for planning and zoning, and there is no standard. So now you have all these different subdivisions and every single one is completely different. And it doesn't really mold the values of the city. Is that a fair statement?
Good point.
It could be different than other neighborhoods, for sure. I think the way that I've always approached development by using this DF is that the city encourages people to use the zoning that you have in place now. And if the developer just doesn't think the market is there for that type, then that's when they start asking about the DF process. And so it'll be up to the planning commission and city council to determine what things are acceptable and what things aren't for the community.
The other piece of that is even as the city is negotiating, working, anything they come up with is gonna end up having to come, we'll finally get a chance to see some of that at planning and zoning, and we'll get a chance to see it at council. So it's going to force them to have to come with a final that if they want to change it after the fact, they have to bring it back.
Keep in mind, this process would still happen under your current zoning. It's just called something different. It's called a planned unit development. So it could happen today. It's just called a planned unit development in the same process. This just simplifies it and how the city staff has to work on this and the number of approvals that.
Just make sure that if there are changes that they want after the fact, that it has to be done out in the open and come back.
Yep. So they could do it today. It's just called something different.
They're less, like they don't have to follow it as much now if we changed it to this other, or is it just exactly the same process?
It's the same, essentially.
So I was just reading your the actual ordinance, and I mean, I think Brian, he's still here, had it right on. This is the zoning administrator approves the plan. So where does the public come into these flex developments? Because it's not in your statute ordinance proposal. The developer meets with the zoning administrator, and I don't know who that is. The zoning administrator approves the plan.
For DF?
Correct, it's in this 151.081. The developer shall meet with the zoning administrator to review all applicable ordinances,
Yep.
regulations, and plans. The developer shall present the concept plat and site plan to the zoning administrator. The zoning administrator shall review the concept design
Yep.
and recommend changes to comply with the criteria listed.
Yep. So then upon approval of the concept plan, then they make an application for the rezoning and conditional use permit, and that's when it comes before the city
Okay.
council.
Thanks.
That's also, somebody had mentioned traffic. That's also at the point where you could require traffic studies as a condition. So if a development comes in and conditionally it's approved, you can say, when you put through that road, we can approve that, but you can put a condition that says they have to do a traffic study, and if it's over a certain, then they also have to pay to widen the road and add turning lanes. So things will end up coming through here, so we can put certain additional conditions on things.
And it still goes through your professional staff. So your city engineer is gonna have input, and if they think a traffic study is needed, we're just gonna tell them, you're not gonna go forward until you get that. If that's when our city engineer makes decisions on how wide the roads, if the road width are okay, if the cul-de-sac diameter is okay. So you still have your professional staff, your planner and your engineer reviewing all of this. And there's a lot that does get done ahead of time to make sure that it meets our ordinance in terms of subdivisions and roads and, you know, if we don't think we don't think a smaller road size is acceptable, then we'll just say, well, we're not gonna even present that to the city council because I don't think they'll accept that.
So, on that comment, was a traffic study done as part of all of the work that went into this for the new zoning?
Say that one more.
Was a traffic study done as part of all of this? I know what you talked about with the development.
Traffic study is not done when you rewrite code.
So the reason
Traffic study would be when you have developments come through, that's when you say, in order to approve this location, you need to do a traffic study to get a condition to approve it, and it has to meet whatever it is. So if we wanted to require, if another business wants to go in on Minnesota Avenue, and those are the ones where you might want a traffic study done to just see what kind of business it is, how much traffic is it gonna generate. You could do the same thing with development.
Yeah, and I get that. And I guess the reason I'm asking that though too is to require that for development to come in, but yet if we're willing to truncate or shrink the lot sizes and different things that are part of this, if our current infrastructure doesn't handle that, roads especially, the ones that are existing, do we have a problem there already?
Possibly,
Yeah.
yeah. I
So I
think
guess-
there's spots in town right now
That's-
that, and I wanna make sure that
Yeah.
we can do that, cause I would prefer we don't see more businesses coming in where we have accidents.
Right.
Cause as a first responder, I know Minnesota Avenue, there's been a couple accidents down that way already.
Yeah, I guess that's just part of my concern.
So that was one of my concerns too.
Yeah, and I mean,
No,
that
that's
was even,
fair.
I know with the new R2 development going in across from Two Sisters, which again, very thoughtful work went into that, but that was even a concern that was brought up the last P and Z meeting was, you know, lines being painted on different roads and things like that, and, you know, it's something that's separate from what they were doing, but again, you're talking small lot sizes and things like that, that's a
Well, I know
concern
when
for
Two Sisters went
development
in,
doesn't have to, the developer doesn't have to do that then because the lot sizes have changed now.
well, I know when Two Sisters went in, that was one of the discussion points too, is to make sure that if traffic would increase, that there's still room for turning lanes, future turning lanes and other traffic lanes through there to make
Sure,
sure.
they actually put in that right turn lane that
Yeah.
that was developed, that we talked about before that happened, absolutely.
So I know that's one of the things that when it does come to planning and zoning and when things do go to council, is we can require those additional things to look at. Where that's part of what this is to try and make sure any of the ones that are gonna be most impactful do get somebody looking at them.
If they meet the zone, there's no traffic study needed, correct?
If you've got an empty single lot and somebody puts a house in, there's not gonna necessarily be a traffic study. But if there's gonna be a development, those are the ones that those are the ones you really wanna think about. If somebody has 3 lots in a row and they put a house on one of them, you're probably not gonna have that opportunity to ask for a traffic study. Not unless the house doesn't meet whatever standards or they wanna make it some kind of special interest.
Even a developer, if they meet the building code. They don't need a traffic study, right? If they can build 10,000 square foot lots.
It can
Not
still,
necessarily.
not necessarily, yeah,
No.
they'd still come through if it's a development, are gonna have to come through and have a public hearing.
And the city engineer would evaluate that for the tax on the city roads. And, you know, if you have a small lot development of 6 lots, it's pretty easy to calculate the traffic when you do like 2.2 foot or how many trips per day per household. You can do that in your head. It's really gonna be on the bigger developments that those are gonna be required.
Isn't the city somewhat responsible for traffic? Doing a traffic study? Before they offer to accept a plan from somebody?
It's pretty costly to have a traffic study that's done, I think, to do it the
Usually
right
it's a
way.
developer.
And so it's gotta be with the developer, not with the city.
Now, if there's roads in town that we think are too busy, that is on the city. It's not the.
Right, like
Right.
Minnesota Avenue.
Yeah, Minnesota Avenue, if the city thinks it's too busy and too dangerous, that would be on the city. Yeah,
Development specific traffic studies would be covered by the developer and they would occur before the item goes before the planning commission for a public hearing so that information is available to the public at that time.
questions? Got another couple left on my list here that I wrote down as we were going through comments, so. We did talk about transitional step down zones a little bit. Development flex sidewalks, lot sizes. Somebody did mention, and I'll put these together, so wildlife, and there was also landscaping and trees mentioned.
Transparency was also mentioned as well, lack of transparency.
Yep, communication.
And I think also that was mentioned was, we don't necessarily have to be the same as everybody else, that, Orinoco can be a unique town by what it does, by what we want to have as the residents of the town. So we can set that to be what it is. And that's the uniqueness of what Orinoco is the larger lot sizes and the country style living. And that's what people want that are here. That's what we love about this town and what goes on, so.
So if
Well
we
made.
go back and look at the wildlife though, and the trees, I do know one of the comments was, wooded and making sure that we still continue to have trees. There is a tree part of this zoning ordinance, so it does require that you can't have somebody basically plop a house down and not put trees in. So there are some requirements there. It also says if somebody buys land and it's wooded, you can't just tear down every tree and not replace them. So you have to get permission if there's particularly larger trees that are nicer, because that's one thing we don't want to have either, is just a bare open land. So I do know that was written into the code. Wildlife, I don't know that we specifically talked about wildlife. I know in the township where they have a lot larger, I used to live in there years ago, and we talked about wildlife corridors. So the DNR out in the country has wildlife corridors, but I don't know that we particularly address that piece of it.
No, we spend a lot of time though on the trees, trying to keep that up
Trying to make sure that,
that we replace those, that everything is done, where it's just not somebody going in and removing all the trees. Okay, so.
now if it's a tree that's not healthy, that was different and it's written, so if you have box elder trees that are starting to go down, you can down and tear those down, but if you have a nice majestic oak that the neighborhood enjoys looking at, you can't just go and tear that one down.
Just like you mentioned something about the lot size at 20,000 square feet. And 10,000. If you increase that to 12, then you can't split the 20,000.
That'd be correct. Now, you could have people today that have larger lots to begin with, so 20,000. You could have somebody sitting at a 30,000 and now they could do a split.
Yeah.
And there are definitely places around town that have very big lots because they had septic fields.
Yeah.
So you could potentially see some lot splits there. But again, if you do have that 12,000, seems to be a number that's being kicked around
Then
here.
you're stuck with the 20.
Then you're not gonna have a 20 that's gonna split in half.
Right.
Now, if you are gonna split, the other thing to keep in mind, the locations where they can put their houses can't be super close either. You have to have that
Yeah.
setback from the edges too.
A lot of these in the old town are less than 20.
Yeah, absolutely. Questions up here front? Any more discussion? I know I've tried to pick out the different questions. I know there was one on finished floor space in an R1 versus R2, but it was explained that there's a basement versus a slab.
Yeah.
And I think Paul had mentioned too also the original purpose to remove some redundancy and a lot of conflicts. When you have a consultant and you're gonna do a rewrite, we definitely want to remove that redundancy, but I think by redoing this, one of the other goals was to make sure when somebody walks into the city office and wants to do something, Jason is our zoning administrator. He can look at the code and figure out what paperwork to give people to fill it out. Because I know that's the problem. One of the things that comes out of this as well is that there's gonna be training for city staff on what to do, and we've asked to say the top 5 or 10 things that people request. There'd be packets put together, so somebody can walk in and pick up the packet to put a pool in, pick up the packet to add a garage, know what your rules are. And so I know that was one of the issues that we were trying to make sure and address, at least that some of those are a little bit more clear for folks when you want to do something with your land.
I know that in the past, we had turned around and put in another checklist that was there, okay, for planning and zoning and for council to be aware of. And in the past, we had a single wide mobile home that was put with, did not fit into code and was put in by a city administrator. And you need to have checks and balances that there are to go along with that. And iWorks was one that we were all given, which gives us access to be able to look at all the permits that are being issued by the city so that we know exactly what's going on. And again, council had approved that. That needs to go back and be put back on, where all of us have the ability to take a look at that to make sure we know what's really happening. And it's done correctly without just an administrator saying, okay, this is what we're gonna do, and bypass everything that there is with the council and planning and zoning.
Jim, did you want to talk about that chart that we talked about before the meeting?
Yeah, in our old ordinance that we had a really good chart that was about a 4-page chart that there was that identified R1, R2, B1, B2, and the different things that you can do. And it was a real simple chart, and I just didn't bring my old code book with. We were talking about that. I think that same chart should be added again to what we have here. That's real simple to take a look at. Okay, I want to do this, I want to do that. Well, is it permitted, or what do I need? Does it need to be a variance or conditional use? But it will identify that for people to look, and I think we should have that put in as well.
Yeah, that's easy. Yep.
All right, so we've got a couple things we can do here now, folks. I know we've had some discussion. I think we've talked our way through some of the points that I had written down that we've gotten from comments, the written comments, the online comments, and the in-person comments. As a body here, we are a body that refers all of this to city council. So what we do here is not the final say, it goes to them as a recommendation. But even with that, what we've got out here, we can tonight or put through changes if we want to make some changes. One of the ones I'm hearing loud and clear is a change on lot size for R1. So do we want to talk about making some changes to this before it goes to council?
I think we have to. This is me speaking. I think we have to, because I don't know that I could vote in favor to send this to city council at this point, so.
I agree, I had that down too as well.
I think that
Mine
that's
was
probably the direction we need to go, is to table any recommendation until our next meeting. We should probably have discussion, get the website back up and running, maybe get some of these documents on the Orinoco.com straight homepage so people can find them easier. I wouldn't mind being able to have another sit down and a virtual meeting, even with you, to go through some of these things, because the flex zone, I had question marks all over that. I had no idea what that is. And it sounds like I'm not the only one. So I think that it's reasonable to delay any kind of recommendation to council.
So what we can do is we can, I believe, continue this public hearing to next month's meeting.
Okay.
So we can do that. I think we should narrow down and focus on, there's a couple things I wrote down: lot size, potentially a step down component. Within development flex, make sure that we're specifying some sidewalks.
With sidewalks, we have to check with drainage too, to make sure that we don't have to have some sort of sewer component for drainage. I think that's the big issue, but we can dig into it a little bit further. Is once we start throwing up curbs for sidewalks, then we have to redirect that rainwater somewhere. I know,
and I do know when you have developments, there's a drainage plan that goes along with them,
Right.
so that's
Yep.
definitely a piece of it. But I do think that there are definitely things to continue working on here. I know it's a lot to have done in that period of time. But we do want to make sure we're getting it right.
Questions over there, or comments? I'd like to hear comments from you guys. That's what I was asking.
No, I'm happy to have people show up and be excited and interested in one way or the other.
Oh, sidewalks. Back in P and Z in like 2015, 2016, sidewalks were discussed very heavily. Majority of the residents didn't want them. See, that's changed a little bit more now, but back then, that was the general consensus among the community was, sidewalks, bigger lot sizes. And we were told back then by Joe Palin that sidewalks were not feasible anywhere in the town, maybe new developments, but possibly not because then you have to add the whole sanitary sewer and a whole bunch of infrastructure, which we don't have, so it's pretty much impossible to do. At least that's what we were told back then. So, food for thought. To the best of my knowledge, I can remember.
And I think when we had, the one survey that was done, everybody liked the way the lots are in town right now and the way it is, and they like the country style living as it was referred to, okay? And so that's one of the attractive parts of what there is to the city is that country style, and you give up on the sidewalks with that. So that was also strong last January, I think is when that report was done.
I think most of the concern comes from the increased traffic with all the kids running around. And you can already see it where DG Market is and kids shooting across that road already
Yep.
it's a terrible location because there's a hill there, people speed and somebody's gonna get hurt there.
There's no shoulder.
Yep,
I agree.
Yeah,
And a call.
our neighborhood kids go over there all the time and I'm just waiting for them to get in.
And that's an example of where the iWorks was so important. We didn't even know as city council or planning and zoning that was going in, and that got bypassed. Everything got bypassed with just the city administrator saying, okay, it's going in. And there should have been, I think, a turn lane and should have all been checked a little bit differently before it was done. But that's where iWorks is so important for us to be able to know what's going on and what's happening.
That seems to be like the number one, severe risk is the people walking on, I walk on this.
Absolutely.
And I worry about, do I have a bright enough shirt on?
No, and it's true. There's no question about it.
Side of traffic going a lot, and we never had these electric scooters 2 or 3 years ago. I think it's.
No, we did not write the code to address electric scooters though.
It's scary. It's scary.
Morgan?
Don't miss snowball.
Yes.
Morgan?
I just have to jump on to what she was saying. I mean, as a mom and as an OR nurse, that's what really scares me. And that having someone kind of come in and deciding these things without the public is a little concerning.
Okay, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, safety-
Now what we can't
take
take,
it neighborhoods where everyone watches out for everyone's kids.
Yep.
I can already tell the increased traffic we love Two Sisters, but a lot of people think that road goes through. So the increase in traffic constantly, the speeders, new kids driving all the time. I mean, it's a constant concern. And then if we're just gonna bring in higher density stuff, I mean, Minnesota Ave is a nightmare. We all know that. It's our only outlet too.
No, and it's one of those things that's always been a concern of mine, especially with new developments going on that way, that we do need to have a traffic plan and take a look at it.
so
Could
that
you add
piece of
extra?
it though is something that the council should be working. Planning and zoning is here, not necessarily to be able to control the traffic flow. Planning and zoning is here though. As new developments come in, we can force them to do a traffic study or have them do one at that point. And if there's a definite change needed, we can have them help pay for that extra turning lane. We can put those on as conditions of the development with that development flex. What planning and zoning never has been able to do is say, hey, this road is too busy, go and do something with it. That really has to come from council.
And there wouldn't be an increase in traffic without that developer requesting that additional
That's why
density,
it's
so the developer should.
But that's
Part
also
of the solution.
something that council can direct our zoning administrator if he has one-off businesses coming into town to make sure that that traffic is being considered. So
So
that's,
a little 1,000-foot view, what you might see coming is, Parks and Trails is working on getting more trails and connecting the current ones that we have. We have developers that are coming in and they are, adding to that trail system willingly. And I think that if we continue that, the walking corridors, you'll see that they're going to start to connect, they're going to start to make sense a little bit more. And that doesn't change Minnesota Avenue at all, but there is a view, but it's different committees all working together to try and get these things, the vision of the city and being able to get around safely. So all of those are considerations, but as Kathy was saying, some of these are in different committees and they're dealt with different committees, but that is something that.
The good thing is
Yeah.
we've got 2 council members that sit on here that are also on some of these other committees, so.
Correct.
And they can take these back to council as other issues. But with that, I think what we're gonna do is, if anybody would like to make a motion to continue this public hearing to next month, so we can gather a little bit more information before then and then put this back on again as next month as a public hearing again.
I make a motion that we continue this to next month.
I'll second.
Make the adjustments.
All in favor of continuing this hearing to next month, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign? Okay, this will be on our agenda for next month as well, so we can continue the discussion and hopefully get some additional information on those couple points.
Will we reopen public comment beginning with it being a continuation?
We don't know. We could, I don't know yet. I have not thought about
Okay.
that part of
Yeah,
it.
it should be
But-
fine to do that. Yeah, I
It-
think that we
I
should.
think we should.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I believe we legally can, so as long as it's a continuance.
And it should be, just so you know, if you have neighbors and that wanna come, we'll have a bigger room next time because it's gonna be open and we'll have the other part of the other half of the room that there is, so. Don't be worried.
Second.
about it.
Yeah,
Jim?
can we talk a little bit about the website?
Yes.
If you put it, I don't know, I don't have any control over the city's website, so I don't know what the city's website, what the capability is of gathering comments
Okay.
on this. You could certainly put the document on there and just have people write in, send you or Jason the comments. But we are working on a different way of using Growing Orinoco, which is something that we do have control of that will eventually be turned over to the city, so you can use it for other things. But working on fixing this solution, but also maybe a different mechanism for gathering comments that won't cause the glitch that was happening.
Is it possible to push the whole document out there as a single PDF or 2 PDFs and just have all the comments go to Jason? I don't know. We'll take that one afterwards.
It's causing the problems.
Yeah.
So we can talk about that. I just wanted you to be aware that there are other options if you want to keep it open for people to comment on. There are other options that we're exploring for Growing Orinoco, but you could certainly put the PDF on your website.
And I think if we even just unbury the link to Growing Orinoco out of the ENC page and put that on, that's a whole lot easier. And then,
It probably wouldn't be available for, maybe by the end of the week, we'll have it.
and then
Good to
for
go,
anybody
right?
who's looking at it, if you right click open new tab, they will open.
Yeah.
But just clicking on them currently,
It doesn't work.
you'll get an error. So we'll have hopefully directions
Yeah.
with that link if there's any other issues. And then I think that it would be reasonable to be able to request the document.
Well, the final
So-
document, we're gonna have a single PDF that we can do a Control F and find it stuff.
Right,
That's-
yes. Yeah, so I think it's reasonable to be able to request that full document as well.
Yep.
If you need it emailed to you or whatever, so.
All right. So we have voted, we're gonna have that again next month, a continuance, so. Thank you all for the feedback. We definitely appreciate hearing from everybody. Cause we do, it's what we need to bring us into the current era of iPhones and food trucks and all that was all, the internet wasn't invented hardly when this was originally written, so. We did not catch the electric scooters though, no. But
Be in your code anyway, not in your zoning.
yes, so with that though, thank you, everybody. If you do want to stay, we are gonna have discussion on anybody open positions. We will have one open position.
Also,
And
yeah,
I did put on interviews if there's anybody present that wanted to apply, so. But if we want to take a 2-minute break or something, I need to go cough and get something to get my throat here since I'm using
Like
my
the fan switch.
right.
get something.
You turn on the air over there if you want to. Okay, I had just turned it, no, over on the regular air conditioner.
Go back about.
Middle button.
Yeah.
I will.
Okay.
I'm not the right person, but I have a question. Does anybody know what they're doing with the septic system?
What they do.
That's on the right.
Oh, yeah, they get here.
Yeah, cause we discussed it,
Not my
time, so,
Mhm.
May, and we'll start in January, February.
Then going for.
And, we're looking at selling the property,
Also,
putting houses inside.
Yeah, so what will be would it be just the same housing or what? I mean,
What we
it's
looked at-
septic and it's, so there could be issues underneath soil, correct?
Well, what we were looking at is trying to.
Shouldn't be, but do we have all the correct papers? Because I've contacted them.
Heavily buried.
So-
I've had.
Because I live across the street from there and I was told that nobody could be built, nothing could be built on.
No, I got regulators on site.
That's River Fire. So.
I was told, first of all, I was told it was supposed to be a park. I bought it when I was in Texas. And then I was told it was a septic when it was already being built. Then I was told they couldn't build something. I don't know, well, they're gonna sell it, so I'm. really not happy about it.
What we're looking at.
We need a shirt back.
Nothing else time.
And with that, a little longer than our 2 minutes, but thank you, everybody, for that. And we will look forward to next month where we get to continue talking about our zoning ordinance changes that are coming about. We do move next to new business. We have first on for new business, People's Energy Co-op was looking at, just wanted to give us a heads up, some type of future, untitled future development, and that's all I know, folks. So
That's all there is.
thank you very much.
So Marty Walsh, I'm the Economic Development and Key Accounts Manager for People's Energy Cooperative, your local member-owned energy provider. We have a property just to the north of the co-op building. It's right where there's a split rail fence kind of between us and the ballpark up there, our solar, and there's a wastewater retention pond. That was our septic system until the city developed their your wastewater plant. And we've now decommissioned that septic system. It's PCA cleared, it's all good to go. And in looking at what would be the strategically best decision for the cooperative, for our members and communities that we serve, we looked at how it could be developed similar to how we developed everything on the east side of Lake Shady Avenue, and determined that commercial development was not likely. It's currently zoned M, which would allow for manufacturing there. It's 175 feet wide. That's not gonna happen. And so we saw hunting as a really significant need in the community, both locally and regionally, the entire co-op, 1,100 miles that we serve around here. And we've recognized that there's a pretty good opportunity to create some, what we call attainable housing. We are not gonna seek affordable subsidized housing. We are actually not gonna develop it ourselves. We're gonna be seeking a request for qualifications from developers regionally who have some expertise. We likely will be utilizing, if it becomes available, the development flex zoning, because at 175 feet, we might need to ask for 5 feet of forgiveness on something here. We might need to get something, the stormwater is already well drained because it was the septic field. So like we might need different stormwater things. There's a lot of different things. Our intent is to seek a developer to probably incentivize the sale. So we're helping affordability on the supply side rather than offering direct government subsidy on it, because that's not our business and we don't think that's a sustainable long-term opportunity. But we are probably going to seek medium density at the very least, but we're very, very intent. Every citizen of Orinoco is a member and a therefore owner of the cooperative. And so working really closely with the co-op or with the community on what makes sense that helps achieve some attainable housing, lowers our total utility plant investment. So if we have, say, cottage homes or townhomes there, we have to put a lot less in. That's a lot less that goes on our system investments overall, while still maintaining what the city of Orinoco needs for workforce development, for everything else. We have taken a look and seen if we were at the 6 to 8 unit per acre development, that would be roughly between water and property tax, about $100,000 a year additional revenue to the city of Orinoco versus about $10,000 a year additional revenue at single family at 1 home per acre zoning. So those are the things we're trying to take into consideration, what works best, what works not. Our intent is that a request for qualifications for developers will go out maybe the end of this month. We might wait and see if the development zone, the development flex to go. Otherwise, we'd seek R2 zoning for the same reason. But we'd like to kind of get this rolling, go out to developers, and then see who comes back over the winter time, work with the developer on a plan that kind of from the ground up meets the community's needs, as well as achieving the co-op's goals around electrification and some other things. And then see maybe springtime final applications and construction next year. So just there's zero structure to that. We really want to see what does a developer come forward with that we think helps achieve goals that push against the rising cost of housing regionally. Again, that still makes sense for everybody in the community. So purely informational, zero structure. Assume we'll talk to you a lot more over the next 6 to 12 months, but didn't want to have that go out in the Post Bulletin or somewhere else and say, what the heck is this project going on here?
Really appreciate
Very
it.
good. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
So the land in question, I don't know if everybody's familiar, the frontage road, other side of 52 there.
Yep. Turn right at Casey's. We're on the left, a little further
There,
up.
Casey's up here. There's a little island of township houses there, and then there's that land right there, kind of along the.
Yeah, and so that reminds me of one of the kind of discrepancies. So it's zone M, the land use planning has it as R2 long-term, so it actually fits into the R2 zoning. But again, because it's only 175 feet wide, we don't know that we would actually be able to do it. That's why we'd be seeking out some variances.
one
So we'll
way
do
or
PUD
the
or
other.
another some way, yeah.
One way or the other in the future at one of these meetings, which we still have an open seat if anybody's interested.
Open seats on your planning zone.
Shameless plug. But with that, we'll expect to see you and potentially whatever partner you end up
Correct.
picking at some point in time, doing something housing related on that plot of land.
Correct. Yep.
So probably a zone change and some other application to go with it to be determined.
Yep. And I want to just, it's not saying that a developer might not choose that they want to pursue some different program, a state program or anything, but we're not prioritizing that. We're prioritizing a project that gets done that can be replicated in other communities.
Well, thank you. Appreciate you coming out. We'll talk again, I'm sure, at this very same meeting. Excuse me. Next up for new business, I have put on there, I would like us to do an RFP, so a request for proposal. And just doing a draft on that to look at our future zoning services support. So I know we're nearing the end of the code rewrite, which was 800 pages originally down to, well, it's still gonna be a book, I don't lie, there's a lot that goes into it. But it won't be 600 to 800 and it's gonna be illustrated with pictures to make it easier. But to move forward on that is our zoning services that we get. So our zoning administrator is Jason, but along with that, on the city side, we don't have a current hard and fast contract that we look at every year. It's just been Stantec because that's what's been in place and that's what we've always done. And I'm not saying we're going to change. I'm not saying we're not going to change, but I think we should look at writing an RFP to just look at our zoning support services, our zoning and engineering that we use to make sure we're getting the quality that we pay for as citizens each year. So if everybody is okay, I don't know if I'll do it next month, but I will come forward with a draft. I've gotten a couple, 2, 3 different ones from the League of Minnesota Cities that we can use to model our RFP and do the same process where we write it, make sure council is on board, and that we go forward and to make sure we've got a company to support us with our new code. So.
What's the timing on the renewal now? When does it happen? Just first of the year or is it-
No,
There is no
there
reason
isn't
for-
one. It's just they bill us every month and there is really not a check and balance. The council hasn't looked at that in years, is my understanding. And
Yeah,
I
the
think,
last time I think was
You think in the-
2006, yeah.
I think on the city side, if council's not looking at it, I think we can push them to say, we need to
Yeah.
look at that, making sure we're getting our zoning support done.
I'm just curious on, again, timing wise, how timing of this would go with an RFP and if there was a renewal. of
I think the
contract.
RFP is not anything, it would just say, here's the zoning support services that we want, and we're gonna have companies come in front of us and say what they can do and how they would support it, because I was on township zoning for years and we had an outside company that did some stuff for us, and they also did things like have a person at every meeting in person. I mean, there's different things we can request support wise.
Yep.
And I think that's okay. I think
How
that's,
could that affect water and sewer?
Didn't have anything to do with water and sewer.
It wouldn't change the wastewater
No.
plan at all.
No, what we're
that's a
looking
different
at is,
engineering contract.
no, yeah, that's
Same
different.
company, just different.
Yeah, you can have multiple vendors.
Okay.
You know, that's why we have the
But
one
I-
that's doing rewrite right now and
Having a fresh set of eyes on it is an okay thing, and considering it's all of our tax money going in to pay the bills, I wanna make sure they're doing the best job, or paying for the best job that we possibly can get.
yeah, before we did this, we had 3 different companies that came in, and we had the existing one and we had 2 other ones that came in, and they did their presentation of what there was. And we turned around and even had a second go at the last 2, just to make sure that we were looking at it the right way before we turned around and went with the ones we did, but it was an RFP.
And I'm not saying we're happy or unhappy with services,
It's just,
but
yeah.
I'm just saying,
Was
with the
zone
change in code, I think it's good to look at it.
anything else?
Yeah, what they do is they help us put our agendas and our packets together, what other zoning I've been on. I've been where sometimes they even did the minutes and had, like, I said, a person at the meeting. But what they would do is help determine these applications, help our citizens fill forms out, figure out what needs to be done. They would also be looking at these applications as they come through and saying, let's do a traffic study on something. I just think it's reasonable to look at it and not go how many years it's been without us as a city looking at it and all of our tax money going into pay the bill each month.
Sure.
So that's just me.
I think.
So if you guys are good with that, I do expect that we will have something else to occupy our agenda in future months, so. Not near as extensive and long. The code rewrite was definitely longer. But with that, monthly incoming zoning applications and questions, Jason, I don't know if you're on, Jason, if you are, if you can come down. Jason did email me, and I printed off the hard copies of the zoning reports, because we didn't get one last month, so he did send me the June and the July one. But as Jim had alluded, previously zoning had access to iWorks, which is the software for permitting. And for some reason, there's an issue going on with the software access, so if council could look at that and make sure that's
Yeah,
restored or
council has
fixed.
already approved that access to
But-
everybody that there is, and so.
I would like to make sure that
Yeah,
we are looking at that each month so that, let me pass that down.
this only gives you just a brief,
Yeah.
and that's where iWorks is good, and everybody should be on iWorks.
So if you have time, you can be on it and look at it, but if you don't, I know previous months when we've had it, I've asked Jim specifically to be on it, and look at it so that you can look into different permits to make sure we're not missing anything. Because the other thing I want us to be aware of is as we go through and we're working on the code, and if we see that there's a bunch of things that are coming through permit wise, I know roofing is one that's out there. We've had a lot of roof permits, but if we suddenly get an influx of private swimming pools, making sure that one way for us is to make sure our code is up to date on that, helps us prioritize. But that was the June one I just passed out. Here is the July one, which is shorter.
Okay, and just so you know, we missed number C on that, which was Jeff Green, that there was a new business.
Okay.
And Jeff should go next off of that
We
before
will
we
do
get
that.
into that.
So I will pass that one down too. So I think what I'll do for this one is just pass it out and maybe next month we can have some discussion on it since none of us received it until just the email I got. But with that, let's go back to Jeff. Sorry. Completely, I will own that one.
No, I really appreciate getting me added on. So there's a little miscommunication on all parties as far as how you get it added to these agendas. So again, thank you very much. I'm here today mainly I'm filing for a conditional use permit. Again, my name is Jeff Green. And my wife and I own 40 North Minnesota Avenue, right next to the post office. It's a big white building. See some new windows in there. We're looking at opening up a bar bistro boutique. Right now it's slated as just a garage. So I'm looking at I filled the paperwork out with Melissa and the city for the conditional use permit. So that part has been done. I just did some quick sketches. I mean, just for people to sort of get an overview of what we're looking at doing. So, and I'll just hand a few out here if you guys want to share.
Okay, Council.
So basically in the pictures, you'll see some 3Ds. What we're looking at for layout, you'll see a deck in the back we're looking at doing. So we've actually, have, my architect has passed on to Jason and the city as far as site plan and a floor plan inside. I apologize, the one that I printed there, that's not the accurate floor plan inside. It's very similar. It's just there's a little more seating. And that has been given to the city and Jason for the latest. And then it's got the elevations and the site plan image and the patio image as far as looking at the setbacks as such for the property. I think, I don't know where I need to bring this, but my only concern, I know there's a lot of talk tonight about the water waste, as far as water drainage into the storm sewers and what Stantec is requesting that I provide them with an engineer design, which is very spendy. And I don't know if I have any options as far as, I did a site visit there with them. And there is a storm sewer right down below, behind the post office. And my drainage is natural or it comes down. And they're wanting me to put like a little perennial garden retention pond and burying a pipe in the ground to connect in with the storm sewer. And I just don't see where they're coming across on that, where it's already all natural flowage, where the church comes in, my parking lot comes in and going through with with a design like that to be able to pull a permit. So that's really my only complaint about everything else. I'm buying what they want, but I just thought I'd throw that out there. I'm not sure if there's anything I can actually do about that.
So right now, what we don't have is an application, so we appreciate you coming forward. Sounds like you're in the process of filling all that out and working through that side of it. So we will see you probably at a future month with a conditional use permit hearing on that piece of it.
Yeah, I did send that, did fill that out. Melissa does have that.
Great.
So.
And I don't know out there if any of you got a chance to look at this, but pretty exciting for potentially another business in Orinoco here, but little concept.
And basically the business is, we're looking at, we want it to be like a general store. We're gonna be doing Firebird Pizza, got an Italy pizza oven we're looking at putting in there. A full bar, we're not gonna be a late night bar. Our hours we're looking at are anywhere from 10 to 8 or 9, but we're not gonna be no late night bar. I don't want nothing to do with that. And just ice cream, cold sodas, yeah,
Jeff, is the patio, is that facing the church?
yes.
Okay,
Yep,
so it's on the
yep,
back
okay,
side.
east side, yep.
Gotcha,
Yep.
okay.
And then the front of it would be just another patio, just concrete, and then we're gonna have some table and chairs out there for, you know, when the kids, they wanna come in and get an ice cream cone, they can sit out in the front and watch the cars go by and.
Great. All right. Any questions here? Otherwise, I think we look forward to hearing from you in a future month.
Thanks again for letting me speak tonight, I appreciate that.
You picked a lively meeting.
Pardon me?
You picked a lively.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, it's all good. So is, one more question, so is there any kind of time frame as far as, just, you know, this is pretty green to me as far as how these, conditional use permits go and all that stuff, so it has to go into front of the city council now, is that correct?
Well, the public hearing portion of any permit process, if there is a variance or would come in front of this body, and we do a recommendation to city council for the final approval. But we do the public hearing, the public input here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool,
So,
all right, thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Okay.
And you had a name for this again? It was called,
It's gonna be Greener's Pub and Cocktail Lounge, and the front end of, my wife's business is Pretty Please, Thank You. I think it's up in the top there.
I saw that. All right. I'm pretty pleased. Thank you. All right.
My wife does private labeling and all that stuff, so she's got a team about all that,
Yeah,
how
I like it.
stuff's gonna work.
If you.
Well, we appreciate the heads up.
Yeah,
It's
thank you.
always nice when we hear about something before it shows up, so I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome, thank you. You got that. Awesome.
All right. So new business is done, so thank you for that. Old business, we did briefly chat about the incoming zoning applications. So what I would say for that, our two city council, could you guys bring that to city council and see what's going on with the access to make sure that we can still be on top of that?
Yeah.
Because that is one thing I myself don't have time every month to look at, but I know you guys are out there
Yeah.
looking and
I'm watching that real.
yeah, to make sure that if there is something that we know about it.
Very important. We have a cross check on what's going on.
Yeah, I
Transparency in the city.
appreciate that. Minutes of prior meetings. I know we have kind of tasked you with that unofficially, Dan.
Yep.
Is that still
That,
working? I
yeah,
think
it's a works in progress.
you and Rachel or Mel or somebody are working through that together to
Yes, I will have to get with them when they get fully
yeah,
staffed.
figure that out.
and-
It'd be really nice to get those minutes out there.
Yeah. So I think the issue is finding the file for the YouTube to actually be able to drop into the system,
Okay,
or paying for YouTube Premium, then you can get the file and download it to your.
I will trust that you will figure out the best method of doing that and just bring it back to us next month.
Yeah.
That sound good?
Okay.
Open position out there, any interest? There's anyone interested? I actually have paper form. Yes? Anyone going? We'll be around next month as well, if you're still interested at that time. You guys aren't going anywhere.
This guy in a bright shirt. Falling his hands.
Stands out. Hopefully my voice will be better by then. We do also have up here officer positions, if there is anybody interested, so we do need to think about that as well. Is there anybody this month that's willing to be a backup vice chair? Hearing none, moving forward, very quiet, the
Well,
crickets are,
if we can do it as, I don't know if I can do it per council, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I'm not sure about that.
There's
But might be the
potential.
backup, but
as we get into soccer season, if my son is starting, I probably will be at the game. So that is a potential for, not a lot, but
Yeah.
it's there. And then the other thing I have out on old business I'm sorry.
I'll check into that,
Okay.
okay, if that's open, I
Yep.
can do it.
And then the only other thing is as I hear about them, I'm putting things out there on the, just an update to keep them going, cause things are slipping through the cracks in the city and I wanna make sure, so we have one that was a driveway request back to February. That we had heard about that, and I don't know whether he's just given up on working through the city trying to figure that one out. I know we haven't
Yeah,
received
no, he
anything
hasn't.
here. But I think there's that one, and then the other one was Gold Rush Crossing, which was out there for a long time as an update, but now they aren't this month, but next month they're gonna move forward with some paperwork for us, so we'll have a hearing on that one.
And Mary
But if there
Nash
are-
is condemned storage with her building that she,
So that
Mary
one-
Nash is.
That was resolved, I thought. Maybe, I don't know.
We took it to council and
So we're still waiting to.
But that one's not necessarily a P and Z
No.
thing, but it's council was dealing with. But if there are planning and zoning things where I've heard a couple times things slipping through the cracks, I wanna make sure. At least here we're documenting that this one was received as an inquiry in February and it's not resolved, one way or the other. So those are the kind of things that are concerning to me. And at least if I'm hearing about them, I wanna put them on there. Gold Rush Crossing though is one that was down there up until this month as a long. Had been sitting there holding a long spot, so.
Kathy, it's Melissa Griggs here. If the commission has any specific questions about permits or anything on that list, you can feel free to ask if you'd like now.
I haven't had a chance to go through anything.
Probably next month go through them, just for the quarters, the last 3 months worth, just to make sure we're understanding what's going on. But
Yep,
we'll-
I've done a lot of catch up, so I have pretty much any update you guys want. We can go over that this month before your next meeting is fine.
Okay. Thank you. Questions beyond that?
No.
It's 9:20, I would
I
be
make a motion to adjourn.
first. Oh, 8:20. 8:20. Thank you. I looked at the clock wrong.
next month.
Clearly I'm tight. 8:20. So we have a motion at 8:20, a second. All in favor of adjournment, say aye. Opposed? We are adjourned at 8:20. Thank you. It feels like 9:20, but 8:20. Hopefully that future bistro is gonna still be open till